The Jurassic Park franchise has been thrilling fans worldwide for over 30 years. 6 movies have been released since then, and now Part 7 is just around the corner. In this video, we provide you with an overview of the project's current progress and all the important background information on the new dinosaur adventure. In the previous film Jurassic World Dominion, dinosaurs had already been living on Earth with humans for several years. The story then revolved around genetically modified locusts, an idea that, despite its great success at the box office, clearly left many viewers irritated and somewhat baffled. Where can the franchise go from here? When Jurassic World 4 was announced, there was mention of a new era, whatever that may mean. It is not known whether the new movie will follow on from the events of Part 3, nor whether there will be another time jump, or if the story will even be set after that. From what we know so far, it could just as easily be a prequel or even a reboot. Further information about the story and the setting shouldn't be too long in coming. After all, the Jurassic World sequel is coming a lot sooner than expected. The tremendous speed at which the new movie is to be produced really makes you wonder. The project was announced in January 2024, with filming set to begin in July, and the whole project expected to hit theaters exactly 1 year later. For comparison, Jurassic World 3 was announced in February 2018 and was scheduled for release in June 2021, almost 3.5 years later. This naturally prompts the question of why distributor Universal believes they're able to produce the new film in almost a third of that time. Is the project perhaps meant to be smaller? There are at least a few indications of this. First, they plan on going with a completely new cast. This will save budget in this area, since actors such as Chris Pratt have by no means become less expensive with increasing success. In addition, the production period would not need to be adapted to the capacities of the big stars. That said, there is still no information on the new cast, so it is not clear if we will only see no names or if the old cast won't at least make 1 or 2 cameo appearances. What's more, Hollywood insider Daniel Richtman reported on a possible movie title called Jurassic City. Of course, that sounds like a slightly smaller setting than the whole world. To us, all these hints suggest that they want to scale back a little with the new film and keep the option open for a new trilogy, which could then be bigger once again. They don't seem to be cutting corners on the story at least. When it comes to the script, there is a reunion with David Koepp. He already co-wrote the screenplays for the first 2 movies from the 90s, Jurassic Park and The Lost World. For the director's position, they originally planned on hiring David Leitch. He is best known for John Wick and Bullet Train. However, that didn't work out, so they opted for someone who knows all about monsters and science fiction. In 2014, Gareth Edwards kicked off a new monsterverse with Godzilla, continued to make a name for himself with Star Wars Rogue One, and most recently worked on a sci-fi action hit with The Creator, which particularly attracted attention due to its low-cost production. The director, who himself originally comes from the area of visual effects, therefore seems like an ideal choice for the upcoming dinosaur project. The current release date for Jurassic World 4 is July 2nd, 2025, and with filming scheduled to start in the coming months, we expect to hear the first details about the cast of the new blockbuster soon. It remains to be seen if production will actually go ahead as quickly and seamlessly as planned. As we all know, when it comes to theatrical releases, nothing is set in stone in Hollywood. So that's all the info we know about the 7th movie in the Jurassic Park franchise. What do you think? Is a fresh start the right move for the franchise? Or should it have carried on with Chris Pratt and the others? Let us know your thoughts on the film series and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed our brief summary. In 2020, Ghost of Tsushima was released as one of the last big games of the PlayStation 4 era. The spectacular heroic story of main character Jin Sakai turned out to be a huge success, selling over 9 million copies worldwide. The story's potential and the parallels to great samurai classics prompted Sony to commission a movie adaptation. In this video, you can find out more about what awaits you in the Ghost of Tsushima movie. The plot of the action-adventure takes the player to the Japanese island of Tsushima, which is invaded by the Mongols in the year 1274. A group of samurais bravely oppose the invaders, but are devastatingly defeated. Only one survives the massacre, Jin Sakai, the main character. In order to defeat the Mongol army, Jin must leave behind the honorable path of the samurai and use unconventional methods to take his revenge as a guerrilla fighter. In the course of the game, the player not only learns the story of Jin's life, but is also constantly confronted with his remorse. Not only gamers got their money's worth during the game, but also movie fans. After all, Ghost of Tsushima is one thing above all, a tribute to the samurai movies of the 50s and 60s. One of the most influential directors of this period was Akira Kurosawa, famous for works such as Throne of Blood and Yojimbo. However, his most famous film is undoubtedly Seven Samurai, which also had a huge influence on the game. Essentially, Ghost of Tsushima is a playable Kurosawa film. This is not only noticeable in stylistic decisions, such as the contrast between nature and violence, but also in its own Kurosawa mode. This mode presents the game in black and white with grainy visuals and a somewhat tinny audio, very much in the style of its inspiration. But the game's creators were also inspired by other movies, such as Harakiri by Masaki Kobayashi, in which the conflict between deceit and honor plays an important role. In terms of dynamic action, meanwhile, the makers are likely to have taken inspiration from Takashi Miike's 13 Assassins, in which 13 samurai go into battle against a sadistic ruler and his army, including brutal and very bloody katana fights. Chad Stahelski was appointed to direct the Ghost of Tsushima film, having already made a name for himself in Hollywood thanks to his John Wick movies. In Part 4, at the latest, the director demonstrated his great affinity for Japanese martial arts. Stahelski is a big fan of the game and would like to outdo it in many respects. In an interview with Collider, he revealed that the style of the film will be very much in the tradition of the movies the game was inspired by. Not only will the film be released with subtitles and in Japanese, but all the actors involved will also be from Japan. The casting of the protagonist Jin should be of particular interest. In November 2023, Stahelski announced that work on the script had been completed. The writer's strike had hampered production last year, but now it seems that the project is finally back on track. Although the movie is already in development, it will probably take some time before it is ready for its premiere on the big screen. First, a cast needs to be found, and it seems that the Highlander film adaptation with Henry Cavill, also directed by Stahelski, is currently the director's priority. Production on the latter is scheduled to begin in 2024. Ghost of Tsushima may then follow. Let's remain patient while looking forward to the samurai adventure with great optimism. Hopefully, we can expect an epic and visually stunning adventure that even Akira Kurosawa would be proud of. What do you guys think? Is a game like Ghost of Tsushima even suitable to be adapted into a movie? And is John Wick filmmaker Chad Stahelski the right man for the job? Let us know your opinion in the comments. The historical film Gladiator from the year 2000 is very popular to this day and is regarded as a cult movie by many movie fans. The epic, directed by Ridley Scott, tells the eventful life of the Roman general Maximus and won a total of 5 Oscars. After 24 years, a sequel is now set to follow, so enjoy our preview. After the end of Gladiator, one question in particular comes to mind. How can the story possibly continue? After all, Maximus' family has been avenged, and he himself has lost his life for it. Well, the story of Gladiator 2 is set many years after Part 1, and turns an unremarkable character from the predecessor into the new main character. We are talking about Lucius, nephew of Commodus and son of Lucilla. He grew up admiring Maximus, as he witnessed his glorious battle against his evil uncle in the first Gladiator. Director Ridley Scott revealed in an interview that at the beginning of the new film, Lucius is separated from his mother and has been out in the wilderness for 15 years. As a result, he has to fight to regain his reputation in Roman society. And yes, the emphasis is on the term fight. In the arena, Lucius will have to deal with baboons, for example. In addition to animal action, we can therefore expect an ambivalent main character who will have a very special attitude towards the Roman elite. Will we sympathize with Lucius as much as we did with Maximus, who sought to avenge the death of his family? We shall see. When Ridley Scott comes up with a new project, all the stars gather around him. This is also true for Gladiator 2. 28-year-old rising star Paul Mescal, who was nominated for an Oscar for his role in the drama Aftersun, has been cast in the lead role of Lucius. Also part of the cast are Hollywood favorite Pedro Pascal, Spartacus actor Peter Mensah, and Connie Nielsen, who once again plays Lucilla. One of the most interesting roles is played by Denzel Washington. Early information suggests he plays a mysterious businessman. Ridley Scott described the role in an interview with Deadline as follows: a man who supplies the Romans with weapons, oil, horses, and wine, everything they need. However, he also has a dark past as a gladiator. He was captured in North Africa and eventually fought his way to freedom. He uses this experience to now maintain a stable of gladiators himself. After the thriller American Gangster, this is now the second movie for which Washington and Scott have teamed up. Originally, Saltburn actor Barry Keoghan was also set to appear in the film, but due to scheduling difficulties, he left the production. The role of Emperor Gaeta was then given to Fred Hechinger. A reunion with Maximus, played by Russell Crowe, is very unlikely. Although Scott initially kept this option open, Crowe confirmed in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter that he was done with the subject by saying, "In that world, I'm dead, 6 feet under." Right at the start of filming Gladiator 2 in June 2023, there were some unfortunate incidents. Several crew members were injured while preparing a stunt scene and had to be hospitalized with burns as a result. Pedro Pascal was also spotted with a bandaged arm. However, it was unclear whether Pascal's condition was related to the filming. The movie, directed by Ridley Scott and written by Napoleon author David Scarpa, was largely shot in Morocco. First impressions have already been posted on the Instagram channel of the Moroccan Minister of Culture. The island of Malta was also used as a filming location. A huge coliseum was built there and filmed with 8 cameras at once. A group of tourists also had the opportunity to take a photo with Mescal and Pascal. Their vacation will definitely be one to remember for years to come. There's only one question remaining. When will Gladiator 2 be released in theaters? Although the film had to suspend production due to the actors and writers' strike, the last take took place in January 2024. The epic historical drama is now in post-production and is being given the finishing touches. The sequel to the cult classic is set to be released on November 22nd, 2024. So, are you looking forward to the project with great anticipation? On the one hand, a second part of Gladiator was surely all but necessary, and will find it extremely difficult to match its predecessor. On the other hand, both the director and the cast are absolutely top class. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. It's time for another Mortal Kombat! 2 years ago, Warner Bros. Presented us with a new live-action movie for the popular franchise, which comprises 12 games and has sold over 80 million copies worldwide. With Mortal Kombat 2, we can soon look forward to the highly anticipated sequel, which is also expected to be extremely brutal. In our new original episode, we give you all the latest information on the plot, cast, and production of the video game adaptation. Enjoy! There was one thing in particular that fans of the series found lacking in the predecessor: the eponymous tournament. The objective is to prevent the 10th consecutive victory of Shang Tsung and his henchmen, which would give Outworld control of the Earth. In the first movie, there was talk of this, but ultimately the villains were just trying to prevent another contest from happening at all. Part 1 ended with Shang Tsung admitting defeat in the battle against Cole Young and his allies, and now vowing revenge by returning with an entire army. Of course, that doesn't sound as if the classic tournament will finally be featured in Mortal Kombat 2. However, it was not yet clear at the time whether the movie would be a success at all. So, of course, they wanted to tease the biggest thing possible. In addition, some of the actors already have contracts for multiple movies. Co-writer of the first movie, Greg Russo, told Collider that he personally sees the reboot as a trilogy. The first movie takes place before the tournament, the second movie during it, and Mortal Kombat 3 after. So, the chances are good that the war between Earth and Outworld as the grand finale will have to wait a little longer, perhaps in favor of the tournament, which will be anything but clear-cut. At the end of Part 1, Cole Young sets off to recruit a number of other champions for the upcoming fight. Much to the delight of fans, it becomes apparent that Johnny Cage is involved in Mortal Kombat 2. The Hollywood star is one of the most frequently recurring characters in the entire franchise. At first glance, he is characterized by his big mouth and his selfish and materialistic nature. Over the course of the games, however, he develops into one of the most important fighters on Earth and is considered a faithful and loyal companion. It can therefore be strongly assumed that the fan favorite will play a major role in the sequel. There has been one question above all others since the release of the previous movie. Who will play Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat 2? Well, the role of the iconic character will be played by Carl Urban, who should be familiar to most movie and series viewers thanks to the Amazon hit series The Boys. As a result, fans were very excited when Urban was confirmed for the role of Johnny Cage. For many, he was the perfect fit for the character. At the start of filming, producer Todd Garner posted a photo showing Urban together with the majority of the cast. Actor Louis Tan, known from Shadow and Bone and Deadpool 2, was already able to make an impression in Part 1 in the role of Cole Young, and will thus also return in Mortal Kombat 2. Also reprising the roles are Jessica McNamee as Sonya Blade and Josh Lawson as Kano. Others already confirmed include Tadanobu Asano as Raiden, Hiroyuki Sanada as Scorpion, and the Raid star Joe Taslim as Sub-Zero. Besides Johnny Cage, other new additions await us. The cast of the action movie will be joined by Tati Gabrielle as Jade and Adeline Rudolph as Princess Kitana. It was also revealed via Deadline that Martin Ford will take on the role of the mighty conqueror Shao Kahn. Desmond Kayam will play King Jared, Anna Tu Win will be seen as Queen Sindel, and Damon Harriman will appear as Quan Chi. Anyone who has listened carefully will have noticed that some characters who actually died in the predecessor will be making an appearance. Director Simon McQuoid said that the game series had already shown various ways in which characters who had already been killed off could return to the story of Mortal Kombat. We are curious to find out how exactly this will happen in the movie sequel. With the first movie, Simon McQuoid celebrated his directing debut, and he will also assume this position in Mortal Kombat 2. The screenwriter is Jeremy Slater, who previously worked on the Disney series Moon Knight with Oscar Isaac, and also worked on Netflix's quirky superhero series, The Umbrella Academy. He is joined on the script by Ed Boon, the creator of the video games. The movie is being produced in part by James Wan and Michael Clear, with their production company, Atomic Monster. Although filming on Mortal Kombat 2 started in June 2023, it was then put on hold for a long time due to the actors and writers' strike, as was the case with many other productions. With the end of the strikes, work can finally resume, but it remains unclear how long production will last and whether the previously envisaged release in 2024 is still realistic. Nevertheless, Mortal Kombat 2 is expected to hit theaters in 2025 at the latest. So what's next for the film series? In a podcast for Variety magazine, Sub-Zero actor Joe Taslim spoke about having signed on for a total of 4 more Mortal Kombat movies. According to him, the future of the series is of course also dependent on the success of the second part. Yet this announcement might give us hope for the time being, as it seems that they still believe in the potential of the franchise. How do you feel about it? Did you like the reboot? And are you looking forward to the sequel? Which storylines from the games would you like to see in the movies? Share your thoughts in the comments, and give this video a thumbs up if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. There can only be one. Most movie fans are probably familiar with this motto. Like the franchise itself, the quote from the Highlander movies has become part of modern pop culture, even though the film series has been dormant for a long time. Rumors of a reboot of the fantasy classic have been circulating for over a decade, but now the project is finally gaining momentum. In our new original episode, we give you an overview of what to expect in the upcoming Highlander reboot. The first movie from 1986 was about Connor MacLeod, a Scottish warrior from the 16th century. After a battle in the Highlands, he realizes that he cannot die. He is later trained by his mentor Ramirez in the high art of sword fighting and introduced to the secrets of immortality. The movie finally culminates in an epic duel with his nemesis Kurgan in New York in the 1980s. The movie turned out to be a surprising success at the time, was backed by a soundtrack by the band Queen, and made lead actor Christopher Lambert a star overnight. The story was a crazy mix of action, fantasy, and science fiction, and spanned several centuries. 3 more movies, a TV movie, and an anime followed until 2007. The second part, in particular, is considered particularly unusual. It is set in the future, revolves around an environmental conspiracy, and depending on the cut, also involves aliens. The other installments, though, keep quiet about these ideas. In addition to the movies, there were also various series, of which the one centered around Adrian Paul as Duncan MacLeod was extremely popular in the 90s. The franchise was also expanded further in numerous books, comics, and video games. All Highlander stories are based on one principle. Throughout human history, there have always been immortals who sooner or later have to face their fated fellows in a deadly duel. The victor gains the powers and memories of the defeated. This continues until at some point there is only one remaining who receives the so-called prize, a kind of divine power. Although the plot of the new Highlander movie will draw on individual aspects of the previous works, it will still have its own unique approach. According to those responsible, it will be a story that functions a bit like a prequel and picks up on various elements of the TV series and movies. It is therefore not a remake of the original film. At the same time, the reboot should ideally provide the foundation for further films and thus revitalize the franchise. These plans are also reflected in the announcement that the movie is merely meant to prepare for the final meeting of the last immortals. It is thus quite possible that the upcoming Highlander movies will establish different protagonists, will meet sooner or later in a final movie. True to the motto, there can only be one. The character's immortality offers special potential for the story. In theory, there are no limits to when and where the action takes place. As with the predecessors, we can expect episodes from the Middle Ages to modern times, but earlier eras or even the future are not ruled out either. The series in particular also played with the idea that the immortals were repeatedly caught up in real historical events, which is surely also an interesting possibility for the reboot. On an emotional level, the immortality of the characters also brings with it some interesting aspects. What effect does it have on them having to outlive their mortal lovers and friends again and again and always being left behind on their own when they carry the experiences of many centuries with them? And how can they trust each other when it comes to the ultimate battle? Exciting questions that offer every new Highlander story at least the chance to be more than just an action spectacle. When it comes to potential locations, anything is possible. After all, the chosen fighters come from all over the world and could therefore meet anywhere. The clash of different cultures and combat styles has always been part of the series' fascination and could once again provide for some interesting action scenes. We strongly assume that at least the Scottish Highlands will also play a role in the reboot of the franchise. It will certainly be interesting to see how the mythology of the Highlander universe will be handled. Questions about the origin of the immortals and the meaning and purpose of their eternal struggle have been addressed time and again over the years and answered differently in the various works. To this day, fans argue about which facts are canon and which are not. Although the new film is supposed to pick up on known elements, it is not known exactly what these will be. It is also doubtful that the first movie will answer all the questions. After all, if it is successful, there will be more to come. Out of nowhere, the casting of the main role in particular made big headlines for the new Highlander movie. The announcement that superstar Henry Cavill would be following in the footsteps of Christopher Lambert caused a veritable buzz among fans. Cavill is considered one of Hollywood's most beloved actors and has proven more than once that he can also master physically demanding roles. Appearances as Man of Steel or as Geralt in the Witcher series speak for themselves. The latter was probably the decisive reason why he was able to secure the role of the Highlander, since he has plenty of experience wielding a sword. Sadly, nothing is known about the rest of the film's cast as of yet. Rumors suggest, though, that Michael Fassbender could take on the role of the villain. His character is said to be the so-called Mongol, who first appeared in the comic series Highlander Origins: The Kurgan. This would be interesting in two respects. Firstly, the German-Irish Fassbender is not quite a typical inhabitant of Mongolia. Secondly, the Mongol in the comics was killed by the classic Highlander villain Kurgan back in the 16th century. If he does indeed play the villain in the new film, then the previous canon will either be ignored or the reboot will be limited to a storyline that takes place exclusively in the past. Even if we can only speculate about possible storylines so far, we strongly assume that there will once again be a mentor of sorts for the main character, who will introduce him to the ways of the immortals. In the original, this part was played by Sean Connery, who, as a Scot, was ironically supposed to portray a Spaniard. We are excited to discover which actor will take on the mentor's role in the reboot. Given the immortality aspect, it wouldn't even have to be an actor older than 40-year-old Henry Cavill. However, it should be mentioned here that an appearance by the first Highlander actor, Christopher Lambert, is of course not entirely unlikely, be it as a guest appearance or actually in a larger role. His last appearance in the franchise was in the 2000 film Highlander Endgame, where he met series lead actor Adrian Paul. We could well imagine him in a minor role in the new movie. One good reason to be upbeat about the Highlander reboot is the director's choice. None other than Chad Stahelski will be in charge of the entire project, who already caused plenty of hype in the action genre with his John Wick movies. According to Stahelski, Highlander will also be a kind of John Wick with swords, meaning that you can expect perfect and stylish action. As a huge video game fan, he is also sure to get on well with the nerdy Henry Cavill. The director is likewise planning a movie adaptation of the hit game Ghost of Tsushima. The screenplay for Highlander is being written by Ryan J. Condal, who was able to gain experience in both the fantasy and action genres thanks to House of the Dragon and Rampage. The project is being produced by Lionsgate, Stahelski's long-standing partner on the John Wick movies and well known for somewhat tougher movies. We are looking forward to seeing how tough the new project will be. After all, swords are not toys, and most of the franchise's fans are probably no longer teenagers anyway. A targeted R rating like that of John Wick 4 is thus not that unlikely, but it's also possible that they want to win over a new audience first. Obviously, there's the question of when Highlander will be released in theaters. Initial information suggests that the blockbuster, which has a budget of $100 million, could go into production as early as this year, meaning that a release in 2025 seems quite possible. However, an official release date has not been set yet. So how do you feel about it? Are you fans of the Highlander universe? And are you positive about the reboot? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And be sure to like this video if you enjoyed our little preview. Many of the Lord of the Rings fans were taken by surprise when the War of the Rohirrim was announced as an animated film. Besides euphoria, there was also a big amount of skepticism regarding the movie, which takes place about 260 years before Frodo's journey to Mount Doom. As the name The War of the Rohirrim suggests, this time the focus is on a very specific group of people, the inhabitants of Rohan, who already played a particular role in the Two Towers. The prideful horsemen have surely left a lasting impression on many, which makes the story about their background all the more exciting. One more reason for us to take a more in-depth look at all the current facts about the production and the plot. And while not all of you are anime fans, it seems that something very special is waiting for us this time. Ever since the Amazon series The Rings of Power, if not earlier, we have known about the great significance of the ages in Tolkien's world. While the first age ends with the defeat of Morgoth, the series is set in the second age, which concludes with the apparent demise of Sauron. The War of the Rohirrim is now set at a very particular time in the Third Age, more precisely, in the year 2758, exactly 260 years before Gandalf sends Frodo on his way with the ring. This is called the Time of the Long Winter, because Rohan was completely snow-covered for more than 5 months. The makers of the movie obviously rely even more on references to the Norse mythology here. After all, Rohan was already strongly reminiscent of Viking culture in the old movies. The new Lord of the Rings movie is about the big conflict between the Rohirrim and the Dunlendings. So here's a quick summary of the meaning of these names. The Rohirrim, also known as the Riders of Rohan, are a proud people of humans living in the region of Rohan. Their history dates back to the First Age of Middle-earth. They are originally descended from the Northmen, who eventually settled in the area that would eventually become Rohan. The Rohirrim are famous for their horsemanship and their deeply established horse culture. Horses are of crucial importance to them, and the connection between people and horses is a central part of their lives. They breed and care for horses that are particularly suitable for war. The society of the Rohirrim is divided into several kingdoms, with the King of Rohan being the supreme ruler. The capital of Rohan is Edoras, where the Golden Hall of Meduseld is situated, the king's seat. The Rohirrim are also known for their love of poetry and their people's ancient language. The Dunlendings were originally a tribe of people who lived in the western parts of Rohan before the Rohirrim moved into the region. The Dunlendings enjoyed a long history and culture before they were displaced by the Rohirrim. This led to a strong enmity between the two peoples. The Dunlendings lived mainly from livestock and agriculture and were widely known as herdsmen. Their community was organized into tribes and they had their own deities and customs. The conflict between the Dunlendings and the Rohirrim lasted for centuries. The Rohirrim eventually conquered the lands of the Dunlendings and forced them into the mountains of Dunland. This led to deep resentment and mistrust between the two peoples, so it's not surprising that they sided with Saruman during the events of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. As with most stories from Middle-earth, the general storylines are already known from Tolkien's books. It remains to be seen whether the creators will fully stick to them and which details will be added that have not been mentioned yet. Roughly, the story of the War of the Rohirrim is about the following. The film is set at a time when the realm of Rohan is again in an intense conflict with the Dunlendings. Helm Hammerhand is the 9th king of Rohan. King Freyka, the leader of the Dunlendings, challenges Helm to marry his daughter Hera to his son Wolf, an insult that ultimately leads to a disastrous war between the two clans. During this dramatic confrontation, a stronghold plays a pivotal role that fans of The Lord of the Rings are sure to be very familiar with, Helm's Deep, the scene in an epic battle in the Two Towers. However, this film does not only put emphasis on the two kings, the spotlight is also on their offspring. On the one hand, there's the brave Princess Hera, who grows up in the midst of war and becomes a fearless warrior. On the other hand, there's Wolf, the heir to the throne of Dunland. Muscular, armed with an axe, and with a scarred face, he is the main villain of the film. The first scenes from the film were already presented at the film festival at Annecy, France this past June. As a result, some details about the War of the Rohirrim are known already. The movie delves deeper into the culture of the Horsemen's people, which is mainly centered on warfare. Family power structures and conflicts are at the center of the plot, with honor and loyalty seen as being more important than wealth and physical possessions. In addition, the movie also promises to tell supernatural ghost stories, a theme that can fully utilize the possibilities of animation. Concept drawings published so far also show impressive depictions of Oliphants and orcs in the thick of battle. The images released so far definitely make us eager for more and suggest a dark and serious story. In the finished film, we can presumably look forward to seeing spectacular scenes and a more in-depth portrayal of Tolkien's world. The female lead of the movie will be Hera. She is the daughter of Helm Hammerhand. She was not named in Tolkien's writings, so her character is entirely the work of the film's authors. By them, however, she is neither described as a warrior princess nor as a princess in distress. Her main task will be to show the audience Middle-earth from a woman's perspective. The first comments about Hera describe her as vulnerable and wild, a somewhat boyish character. She has red hair and an untidy braid, wears leather armor, and wields a sword. Gaia Wise will provide the voice of the princess, who is the daughter of actress Emma Thompson. Her father, Helm Hammerhand, was the 9th king of Rohan. He got his name Hammerhand because of a legendary action that we will probably get to see in the new movie. Helm is above all a very ferocious warrior, dreaded by his enemies and regarded as invulnerable. After all, his deeds have gone down in history. It's not a coincidence that the fortress Helm's Deep is named after him. The king is dubbed by Hollywood star Brian Cox. He is experienced in the role of a patriarch, for example, as the head of the family in the hit series Succession, or as King Agamemnon in Troy. The counterpart to Hera is Wolf. The king's son travels through Dunland, always looking out for allies in the fight against Rohan. He is a tall, buff guy with long, ruffled hair, armed with an axe and covered in furs and a torn cloak. A scar above his eye makes him look like a true barbarian. Wolf is voiced by Luke Pasqualino, who most of you will know from the Netflix series Shadow and Bone. Freyka, Wolf's father, will also have an important role in the story. Not only is he powerful, but he's also rich, owning many lands by the Adorn, the river that runs through Rohan. He also claims to be of noble descent from Dunland, which will prove to be of great importance later in the plot. Freyka is dubbed by Sean Dooley, whose voice we know from the video game Elden Ring. The last character worth knowing is Freyalof. He is the nephew of Helm Hammerhand. During the war, he mainly stays in the mountain fastness Dunharrow, which, similar to Helm's Deep, is considered impregnable. We don't know how he will enter in the events yet. His voice will be provided by a Hollywood newcomer, namely Lawrence Ubong Williams. For the movie The War of the Rohirrim, New Line Cinema and Warner Bros. Animation are in charge of the production. The project has already been in the making for almost 2 years and holds the promise of winning the hearts of fans. This is because the creative direction is in the hands of the highly respected anime director Kenji Kamiyama, who is most associated with cult anime such as Ghost in the Shell and Ultraman. Kamiyama has also made a name for himself at Warner Bros. Before, where he created the thrilling anime series Blade Runner Black Lotus. The first people to talk about the new Lord of the Rings movie are already stating that the animation is very reminiscent of the anime from the 90s. But don't worry, the magical spirit of the earlier Lord of the Rings films will probably remain in this new work as well. Peter Jackson's iconic visions served as a significant inspirational source for countless scenes in the upcoming film. According to the makers, the challenge was to convert the world and characters into an animated style without losing the charm of the original films. Daniel Faulkner, the art director of the movies, was instrumental in achieving this goal. Together with the creative team, he immersed himself in the archives to find the familiar models from the past films and further shape them. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to watch a trailer or teaser yet, but there is still some time until the movie's release anyway. It was recently postponed from April to the end of next year. Now, The Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim is scheduled to hit theaters on December 13th, 2024. What are your thoughts? Is a Lord of the Rings anime a welcome change? Or are you generally fed up with further projects in Tolkien's world? And if you could wish for your own spin-off, what would it be about? As always, we appreciate the thumbs up and exciting discussions below the video. See you next time! The sci-fi classic Tron wowed audiences with its very special look back in the 80s. Tron Legacy went on to top this in 2010. Now, over 40 years after the first part, comes the third film in the saga called Tron Ares. The new sequel has been a long time in coming, so it will be all the more interesting to see exactly how the story will continue. In this video, we will update you on the latest developments. Let's recall, Tron is primarily about the fact that people can be digitized and immerse themselves in the virtual world of computers. In Legacy, the possibility was then opened up that this could also work in reverse. Kevin Flynn and his son Sam had to prevent the malicious computer program Clue from invading the real world with an army. Kevin sacrificed himself in order to prevent this, and Sam was able to escape from the virtual world together with the Quora program. Part 3 is now to be based on the idea that another program could enter the physical world. In this case, the title character Ares. It is not clear yet whether he will be the protagonist or the antagonist of the story. He may want to continue Clue's goal of wiping out the imperfect humanity. However, it is also conceivable that the character has entered our world rather involuntarily. It would certainly be fascinating to see how a computer program designed to be logical has to find its way in the real world. It goes without saying that Tron fans are also expecting exciting action in computer worlds from a third movie. So, we shouldn't have to wait too long for at least parts of the story to return to virtual reality. Many names, but only a few characters have been confirmed for Tron 3 so far. The eponymous lead role of Ares will be played by 30 Seconds to Mars frontman and Hollywood star Jared Leto. He has previously gained experience in science fiction with Blade Runner 2049. He is linked by his role as the Joker in Suicide Squad with another actor in the new Tron movie, as Cameron Monaghan played the same role in the Batman prequel series Gotham. However, many also know him as Ian Gallagher in the series Shameless, or as Cal Kestis in the current Star Wars video games. Likewise in the Tron cast is Evan Peters. Every Marvel fan should be familiar with him. He played the role of Quicksilver in the recent X-Men movies and also made some appearances in the MCU series WandaVision. Another actress to join the cast is Sarah Desjardins. The Canadian actress is best known for the series Yellow Jackets. Among the other names, Gillian Anderson stands out in particular. She is unforgettable as Dana Scully in The X-Files, but is also doing well these days with series such as Hannibal and Sex Education. These are all new names so far, but fans of the predecessor are naturally wondering whether there will be a reunion with Sam and Quora, played by Garrett Hedlund and Olivia Wilde in Tron Legacy. Part 2 ended with the two of them fleeing to the real world together. However, it is still unclear whether the story will be continued. Back in 2015, Disney announced that a third part of Tron was set to follow, and even the first actors were announced. However, the focus then shifted to the increasingly popular MCU, and Tron Ares was put on hold. The project was resumed in 2021, with Jared Leto being brought in as a producer. In 2023, Joachim Ronning finally took over as director. The Norwegian has previously directed movies such as Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. The script was written by the rather unknown author Jesse Wigoto, who will soon also be in charge of the screenplay for the reboot of The Crow. One exciting question is who will provide the soundtrack? One of the highlights of Tron Legacy was certainly the music of Daft Punk, but sadly, the band has already disbanded in 2021. So, whoever takes on this task will soon have big shoes to fill. Due to the actors and writers' strike in 2023, production of Tron Ares had to be stopped before it could even begin properly. Almost 150 employees were laid off due to budget cuts. However, production was resumed in January 2024 under the working title Velcro. An exact release date is not known right now, but we fear that the film will not be released in theaters anytime before 2025. As soon as the first images are available, you will of course find them here. That's all the information about the third part of the Tron saga. So, were you convinced by the predecessors at all, and are you looking forward to the sequel? Or would it have been better to leave the Tron franchise alone and concentrate on new science fiction releases instead? Let us know your opinion in the comments.